Hi, welcome to ArtC's third annual South Jersey Arts panel discussion. I'm your moderator, Bill Horin. Tonight's panelists are Kahra Buss, William Butler, Vedra Chandler, Jacketti, and Dorrie Papademetriou. For the last 3 years, Kahra Buss has been the executive director of the Perkins Center for the Arts in Morristown and Collingswood, but she has over 20 years of experience as a nonprofit executive. She is a Morristown native who has a long history with the Perkins Center. Camden's William Butler is an established and nationally known artist with over 20 years' experience as both an artist and graphic designer. His vibrant work ranges from figurative to abstract, and he and his wife Rania travel the country extensively raising money for nonprofits. Vedra Chandler, a Camden native, is a singer and community advocate with an impressive resume as a performing artist and a degree in government from Harvard. She is currently the projects manager at Cooper's Ferry Partnership in Camden. Sculptor and gallery owner Jacketti recently located to Avalon with his wife Nancy, but they are no strangers to South Jersey. Gary's Beacon Art Shortwave Gallery in Stone Harbor is in its 13th year, and he will be opening a second gallery, MudGirls Studios, this summer. Dorrie Papademetriou is the founder and executive director of MudGirls, a ceramic studio located in Atlantic City that helps disadvantaged women transform their lives. She is also a talented artist, children's books illustrator, and former curator of the Noyes Museum of Art. Welcome. We're going to talk a little bit, we're going to gear the discussion towards the arts of South Jersey, but it doesn't ignore what's happening in the country with the arts. South Jersey's not necessarily an anomaly to what's going on with the arts, and especially in the past year, things have changed quite a bit. So just a general question is about the artists and arts of South Jersey. Do you guys feel that the arts of South Jersey get the recognition they deserve? Carrie, let's start with you, the owner of a gallery.
I think they do equally. In my collection, if I have, let's say, Peter Davidson, who's been a South Jersey artist for as long as I've known him, it's on the merit of the work, is the way I see it, and I think if it's good, people receive it in the same way as I have New York-based artists, I have Philadelphia-based artists. If the work is good, people will respond to it. That's what I've seen.
Well, now that you're in Avalon, living in Avalon, are you incorporating more South Jersey artists into your gallery?
I've never been open in November, December, March, or April. Right now, last weekend was probably the first weekend I would start building my collection for the summer. So I was very pleased to have a decent fourth quarter, and for the first time ever, I had to report New Jersey sales tax for the first quarter. So they must be surprised when they see that coming, because it was always zero because I was never open for the first quarter. So
William, as an artist who actually moved to South Jersey, where are you from originally, by the way?
So my wife and I, Rania, are from Des Moines, Iowa.
And you came to Camden?
Yes.
Okay. Did people ever say, why did you come to Camden? They were asking that?
I get that question all the time. I get that question from our friends and family in the Midwest. Why are you moving to Camden, and why are you still in Camden? And then from South Jersey and folks from Philly and the East Coast Northwest corridor, they get the same question too. Iowa, what are you doing here in New Jersey, and why are you in Camden? So we get that question quite a bit.
So do you feel as a South Jersey artist that there is the same respect? Is there something that comes with being a South Jersey artist, or do you find that we think that the quality of the artists in South Jersey is incredible? We've always found that. But do you think that they are getting the recognition that they deserve?
Well, my wife and I, we've been here in Camden for 10 years, and, previously not having a whole lot of background or connection to South Jersey, it's been a learning curve for us to get plugged in, to get connected out here on the East Coast, and especially in South Jersey. But the artwork that I've seen by the artists that I've met is all top shelf. And I think you'll find that same level of art being represented in galleries like Gary's down at the Beacon Art Gallery. So I'm not sure how the other artists are being maybe more represented in other areas of New Jersey or in Pennsylvania, but it seems like there seems to be a fairly even playing field again with the quality of the artwork. So,
Dorrie, you recently, well, in the last few years, have founded a small arts organization, MudGirls. What are some of the challenges of being an arts organization in Atlantic City?
Well, I think the first thing is paying the bills, just as all arts organizations are always, that's your bottom line. So that's a challenge, of course, for all of us artists. But the other thing I would say is just maybe getting the support I think we need. And we are a small organization. There are a number of small arts organizations in the area. And I think that's kind of carving out your niche is a little bit of the challenge. But once you do that, and once you just keep working, keep plugging away at it, and work towards building bridges with other organizations, partnerships, and so forth, you can achieve some recognition, some support. I think that's the hardest thing is just getting noticed upon starting, But the more I agree with William and Gary both in that your work speaks for itself. And if the work is good, then you're going to get noticed. And so that's what we hope to do and what we strive to do.
Kahra, you've been in the nonprofit world for quite some time now, but it wasn't in a nonprofit arts organization. Do you see a difference between the arts and the other nonprofit organization you were with previously?
I think the biggest change for me is I now have a job that has completely given me the opportunity to immerse myself in the arts, which has always been a love for me. I grew up in the arts, in the performing side, and it has always been a very, very important part of my life. And now coming to an arts organization, it gives me the opportunity to really fuel that passion, and really be surrounded by wonderful people like those that are represented here today, whose life's work is to create beautiful work to share with the world. And that to me, that's the biggest difference. Every organization, every type of organization has its nuances. I think Perkins Center for the Arts, the biggest difference for me is that we are a multidisciplinary arts center. So the breadth of what we do is vast. We're not singularly focused. So we work with a lot of different artists in a lot of different mediums, from visual arts to performing arts. And so I think that's one of the things that makes us a little bit unique. But for me personally, it's the opportunity to kind of marry a long career in the nonprofit world with a thing that I feel passionately about.
And Vedra, speaking of performing arts, you are a performing artist, and now you're the community events manager at Cooper's Ferry. What is your role in that job?
I was on mute. So actually, I'm a project manager at Cooper's Ferry. Community events manager is an old title. Sorry about the.
Oh, you updated your title. Congratulations.
Yes, it's. There we go. So I manage all sorts of projects, but mostly projects related to art and culture and the vibrancy of the city of Camden.
So how has Camden changed? You grew up in Camden. You're originally from there. What changes have you seen in Camden, especially with the arts, since you were raised in Camden?
Sure. Well, as a performing artist, I've noticed, it's hard to know sometimes what you didn't know when you were a kid, right? So sometimes I'm like, wait, was this always here? But there's a couple of things that really stand out to me as kind of growth in the arts in Camden. And some of it is just education, honestly. Like when I was growing up, I started taking dance class when I was 4 years old, which paid off great for me later in my life. But I went to Maple Shade 5 times a week to take dance class. And now there's, just off the top of my head, 2 like amazing dance company, dance school studios in the city that I would have been so excited to attend as a kid had they existed. So again, like, I don't know for a fact, I know for a fact that one of them did not exist when I was growing up. I can't tell you for a fact that the other one didn't, but just the fact that there's two now, like, that's a lot, at least, and that's just the two that I'm in, in touch with. So to me, this is a big deal, and it represents some awesome growth in the city.
I grew up in Millville, and when I was in Millville growing up, there was really nothing for the arts. And if you had any creative ambition at all, Millville was not a place to be. And when I got out of the service, I moved away because I didn't have anything there. But now I find myself in Millville a lot because they have brought in a lot to the arts. I think a lot of communities are doing that. Atlantic City is a prime example, Camden, Collingswood, Stone Harbor. So we got a lot of communities right now that are growing in the arts in South Jersey. So this is a general question for everyone. What do you think we need to do to keep that going? And how do we keep helping the artists grow in South Jersey?
I think that, goodness, there's so many ways, but we found in Camden that helping this arts community grow has been a lot about helping people to understand that there are opportunities. And right, and sometimes it's not that there aren't opportunities, or sometimes it's just people have difficulty getting connected to opportunities, especially in a city like Camden, where many people like me grew up feeling like the opportunities in the arts were outside of the city. So now that there are more of these, it's really just about making sure that people understand that these opportunities exist. There's an amazing professional artist in town. His name is William Butler. You might want to get to know him. Maybe he can teach you a few things, right? Like,
I think I've met him, actually.
Oh yeah, here you go. Like, there's two amazing dance schools. Like, don't drive your kid to Burlington County unless you want to, right? But if you're looking for something that's close to home, it's here. There's performing arts centers, there's creative arts high schools, there's all kinds of cool stuff. And then for the project that I'm working on now, we were really excited, which is a public art project, by the way, called A New View, that brings attention to illegal dumping as a specific Camden challenge. It opens tomorrow on Earth Day, so really excited. But we were really excited to provide an opportunity to artists in the city who were interested in art but didn't know anything about public art, right? So when we asked for submissions to this installation, we got 131 artists applied, but very few from the city of Camden. And the ones that were from the city of Camden had great experience, just not quite in the way that we needed to execute this project. So we hired 10 apprentices to work alongside the artists that came to town to build the projects. And they're learning so much. I actually spoke to one today, and she literally said to me, she's like, I can't wait to apply this to my own art so that I can do public art in this community now as well. So just like providing opportunities, education, apprenticeships, things like that, where young people know that this is alive in their community, and if they want to keep it alive, they can. And I think that's the step.
Do you think there needs to be a better connect? I know Dorrie and I were talking the other day about a lot of us get involved with our own little organizations, and we don't get to know the rest of South Jersey. And this is one reason I'm doing these kind of events, trying to bring together people from different, we've got a few people from the eastern side and a few people from the western side of South Jersey. I think it's important that we raise awareness of how much there is in all of South Jersey and getting outside our community. And I think with Gary coming in to Stone Harbor and bringing artists from all over into Stone Harbor, and Dorrie, what she's doing in Atlantic City, and Kahra and Collingswood bring in artists now from different areas. Kahra, for example, when you came to Perkins, were many of your artists from other parts of South Jersey, or were they mostly from your own region?
It depended. We had some representation from outside of the region, but it seemed like there was a significant percentage of artists that were participating that were kind of within our own personal net or network. And I think the question that you asked initially about how can we continue to elevate the arts in Southern New Jersey, I think tonight's a great example of bringing people together, collaborating, having discussions, getting to know one another, supporting one another's events, supporting one another professionally as organizations and as individuals. I've long believed that The more we collaborate, the better off we all achieve success. It's really about elevating the arts themselves and not really worrying about whether we are the ones, whether it's Perkins producing it, or whether it's Cooper's Ferry Partnership, or whether it's an individual artist, or whether it's an individual gallery owner. It's really about kind of driving some critical mass around the arts.
So I have to agree with that. That's one thing, and that is one reason we try to do events like this, and hopefully we'll be able to do the next one in person. It's a lot better when you can meet everybody in person and get to talk afterward a little bit more. So Dorrie, as far as with like Atlantic City, you're working really hard with your MudGirls in Atlantic City. Do you feel it's important for you to reach out to other organizations now?
Absolutely. That's where we find our strength, is when we work with other organizations. It's great for my women to work with other people outside of our sort of small community. And I think, it only helps us learn and grow. I'm really anxious to actually visit Camden and see what's going on there. I think we have a lot of similarities between Atlantic City and Camden, and to see what they're doing there, and the vibrancy of the arts community. I would love to see what's going on there. I think it's hard to build support. Atlantic City is a little bit different than Camden, in that Camden has a lot of corporate. They have a little bit more corporate businesses going on. I mean, we have our casinos. But the similarities are interesting. I think it can only grow if we work together. I mean, and I think to share ideas, experiences, and go from there. But we're working hard. I think we've all got to work together and make that exchange, and hopefully, support each other and grow and get stronger. So
I totally agree with that. And one of the things that we've talked about too is, forming more of a connection between the for-profit and the nonprofit world. Sometimes there seems to be a divide between the two, unfortunately. And as Gary is a representative of the for-profit world, and fairly new to living in South Jersey, what advice do you have for artists that want to display in your gallery?
It's about the quality of the work. It has to be good. There are things that artists have to do. One of my first questions when somebody comes in and says, can I have a show? I said, do you have a website? I think that's an imperative vehicle that an artist today needs to have to display their work, and then I can see their work without, it's when you used to walk around with slides. You would remember that, Bill. Yeah. You go to a gallery with your 35mm slides, and you had the sheet, and the gallery would hold it up and say, "Oh, I don't think so," or whatever. But I think the web is a website is imperative. A professional website that looks, and then there are a myriad of examples out there. So I would advise the artist to, have those things ready. Somebody say, "Oh, I'm working on it," or "I have to do that," but I would advise that to a young aspiring artist too. And then social media is another avenue that artists have to. Instagram, there's just the artists that are growing are the ones that are always there. So that would be my advice. You really have to kind of find the avenues and the technology that's inherent in today's world and use that. You have to be there.
How did you get your background? I know you have some graphic design background, William, but what's your philosophy with marketing your art? I know you guys work really hard at that.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Bill. And, and I think with community and with finding that sense of belonging is so imperative and important for the arts to grow in South Jersey. And hats off to you for the work that you're doing at ArtC and with Strobe, in featuring artists and gathering artists and building a community online as well as in person. And I think for artists to be encouraged and inspired they need to be around other artists. We kind of have a bit of a strange tribe, us artists. We didn't always fit into every other group that we wanted to, but we all have our own unique talents and gifts that we bring to the table. So it's always been wonderful to connect with you and with other artists in South Jersey in that forum with ArtC. And I think it's, you know, super important for us to continue to do that and to have those events where we meet in a theater or we meet as a community throughout South Jersey, and to support local galleries and to support events and performing arts and all of that, but to stay connected in that way. For Rania and I, you know, we've been really blessed to travel all over the country and to be part of different exhibits and in communities. And that connectivity for me has always been, it's about not only creating the work, but also watching what the creation of the work does when it's someplace else. So when we've been, whether it's been LA or Minneapolis or Kansas City, or Dallas, or, you know, and then when we moved out this way to South Jersey, knowing that, you know, First Fridays, this kind of art walk, art crawl kind of a thing was happening. It was really encouraging for, you know, represented artists and unrepresented artists to go, to be inspired, for community to gather. And so that's what we, from our previous experience and then also coming to South Jersey, decided to do when we brought our art and design business to Camden, was to first and foremost get established, get the studio going, and then open a gallery ourselves here in Camden in an old 1906 firehouse. And with that, we really needed to complement that communication to the community. And so we used some of that social media. And, you know, in Camden, we had to get the flyers. We had to run over to Cooper's Ferry and print off flyers and maps and make sure we made that connection with folks who are right here in the city that might not have access to those, you know, digital streams. And then we really spent a lot of time partnering with local businesses and restaurants and you know, institutions within the city, with Rutgers University and Camden County College and other nonprofits, to lift everybody at the same time and creating an art crawl that we coined it Third Thursday Art Crawl in Camden. And we just created it very organically. There was no funding. We just put our sweat equity into it for a little bit over 5 years. And we really were blessed to see the arts grow and to see a community come together and enjoy listening to Vedra and her amazing CPR group sing, and to listen to poets, and to view two-dimensional paintings and artwork, and to see performing arts organically within the community. And it is a beautiful thing to see people come. And then to help educate along the way, we would have people that would come to the gallery and they would kind of look in the door and they would wonder, well, how much is it to come in? You know, and Rania and I, being, you know, Iowa Midwest, it's just, you know, come on in, you're welcome to come in. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's break some bread. Let's look at some art. Let's have conversations. And we enjoyed all of that and hosting that and seeing the arts come alive in a way that that we had experienced in other parts of the country, as well as on the East Coast. So it was a beautiful thing to encourage that way.
No, that's a great point of view there, Bill. I really appreciate that. Hey, Vedra, talking about performing arts and different things, the last year with the pandemic, and William was talking about people walking into a gallery and doing all these things. The pandemic had a real impact, obviously, on a lot of the arts, but especially the performing arts. As a performing artist, how did that change the way you reacted and the way you conducted your business, or even as your day job? How did that affect you?
Yeah, I mean, yes, as William mentioned, I'm a member of a music ensemble, a band, if you will, called CPR Music Invincible. And is misery too hard a word? Like, it's pretty miserable. Okay, right? Like, really, really like gut-wrenching, soul-crushing misery to after. It doesn't, in the first few moments, you're a pandemic life, we're all worried about staying alive and staying healthy. That's fine. And then I think as for most people, like it starts to set in, like what you miss, like what you kind of miss after a while. And so the feeling of missing performing was really acute. Really felt that lack of energy. You get energy from the other people when you interact in that way, when you perform. And even as William said, just like that energy that you get just from socializing or interacting with other artists or finding your kindred spirits, whatever, like when you're creating your art, there's like a feeling that flows through you that you give to the crowd and they give it back to you. And that give and take has been so very obviously absent from my life for the past year. And it's been very difficult for me. And I know, of course, I know, right? We know that other people feel the same. So I'm also a member of the Camden County Cultural and Heritage Commission, and we were fortunate enough to come into some CARES Act money that we could distribute to local artists. And, we just made an open call, like who's struggling based on the pandemic, and the really heartfelt responses from all artists that responded, but the performing artists were really, you could just tell like their misery over not being able to connect with other people ran really deep. And of course, this extends into other things. I was a singer with Cirque du Soleil for several years. And so my circus friends who were still on tour were just devastated by first the closure of the show, and then the company folded. And so nobody really knows what they're going to do, where they're going to go. Where do you go to walk on a high wire nowadays? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I believe in, right? Like I believe as human beings, and as, as we continue on this journey through life, we will revive the things that bring us joy and bring us life, and circus will come back and performing will come back. We're not going to just abandon it. I always kind of shudder a little bit, even when like on the news, they're like, are we going to be virtual forever? Our office is closing. And I'm like, no, I need to see people. Like, I don't know what I don't know, you know what I mean? Right. Like, I don't know what my coworkers are working on. This is the one, we have staff meetings every week, but it's not the same. And yes, back to performing, that energy is not something that you can replace. And trust me, I've tried to replace it with some other things.
Well, I know too that it's affected the visual arts as well. I mean, Dorrie just popped up on the screen, but Kahra, I'm sure it's affected the Perkins Center as well. How did it affect you guys at the Perkins Center?
So, we're primarily an arts education institution for basically a cradle to grave arts education. Our youngest students are in the preschool years, 3, 4, 5. Our oldest Potter is 95.
Wow.
Wow.
So we offer a breadth of programming, and we really touch so many different parts of the community and so many different subsections of the community. And so I think, for us as an institution, obviously there's the loss of revenue, and there's the loss of funding, and there's the loss of, all of those administrative logistical things that as the ED, you worry about. And you make, we furloughed a quarter of our staff at the outset, and fortunately we're able to bring them back. But for our students, I think the most telling thing for us was last July when they announced that camps could run, day camps could run, and we kind of jumped out. I felt a little like a circus performer. I felt like we were really walking out on the ledge of a tightrope, and kind of taking a chance to reopen our summer camp. And the response we received from the children and their parents about how important it was for them to be in a situation where they could be creative and where they could be with other people and could share experiences again was just, that was just so impactful for us. And as we have gradually reopened, our registrations right now are significantly higher than we anticipated, because people are just starved for this kind of nourishment of their soul. And I think for us as an institution, we're really looking at how much the arts impact our communities on a daily basis, and just with those basic human interactions. We had the opportunity to host an exhibition reception this past weekend, and talking with people at the reception and speaking with people about the artwork. It was just such, it just really fed our hearts, our souls, and it really gave us hope that the arts will reemerge and be, in some ways, I almost feel like there's a greater importance now, now that people have had to go without. It's kind of that mindset of, when it's always there, you kind of take it for granted. And, South Jersey has such a rich artists community, and there's so much that's available. Typically, when pre-COVID, there's so much happening throughout the region. And suddenly there was nothing. There was nothing happening. And so this reemergence of the arts and this reconnection of our communities, I think, is just now, it's really being looked at as so important and so essential to our health, our well-being, the strength and the overall health of our communities. It's all just really, it's really important.
No, and I do think that there are some good things that are coming from this, as bad as it's been and everybody has struggled with it. I think long-term there will be some good results. And I've talked to quite a few of our artists who are actually selling pretty well right now. Their sales have gone up. Now, Dorrie, you're in a different situation. You bring together a group of women to create ceramics and pottery function during the pandemic.
Well, we our staff stayed employed. We kept them on the payroll through the pandemic, but even though we were closed there for a short bit, but we've been working. Our women really, this is a sense of community for them. So it's really important for them to connect with other people, and we're able to do that in the studio. So we have been making. We did switch everything because there are obviously no craft fairs and things like that where we can sell in person. So everything is online. We switched everything to an online platform and are doing pretty well with that. More work to do there, but as everyone had to pivot, that's what we did. It's always great to visit artists in their studio, so we can't wait to welcome people back into the studio. But so far so good. It's been important for us to be there, to continue to work, to continue to connect. Just as Kahra was saying with their summer camp, I mean, we did the same thing. We did an outdoor camp last summer where we carried all our clay and our materials and worked in the heat of the summer out at the Boys and Girls Club to connect with them. So, you just pivot. We did a lot of things like that to try and keep going, keep our projects going, keep our women busy, stay afloat. But we're managing, and we're excited to be out again, to interact with our customers, our clients, and our people who want to see our work. We can't wait to do that again. So hopefully, I really do think, like you said, Bill, and the others, and Kahra has said also, that I do think people will rediscover the arts. And I think, that they want to see beauty, especially after all this darkness. People want to embrace, something meaningful. I think that's what's come out of this is meaning, what matters, what has meaning. And so if your art is able to do that, is able to communicate and able to express something that people want to embrace, I think that's going to be really important. This as we go into summer, as people come out of the darkness and look for some beauty and look for something with meaning. So, but we're all hopeful. I mean, I think that the arts will have a celebration as soon as possible. So,
How about you, Gary? How's it?
Well, I'd like to interject. I just got an email from my foundry in Chester, Pennsylvania. I have a St. Therese that's being cast. They've never been busier in 35 years. An art foundry, expensive money. People are really, I think the focus has turned on what's important. what's important to them and do it now. It's refreshing. You know, I had a woman that was very supportive last summer who bought, I had 2 customers who, because of Zoom and people commenting on the picture that was behind them, they commissioned or wanted to buy something else. So I think the arts are going to benefit because people are just going to choose what's important. I mean, we're all, every one of us, everyone that's around, you know, could be at death's door. You didn't know. It was the big unknown. So I think the focus is like, find out what's important, do it and do it now. And I think I think the arts are gonna benefit from it, sadly, from the pandemic. That's the feeling I have.
You know, being a multidisciplinary artist, you know, I'm in the studio doing my works, and then I'm doing commission works, and then I travel around the country and do live painting, basically live commissions for nonprofit organizations, for corporations, for events, things like that. So as soon as the pandemic hit, you know, 6 of my scheduled events were completely canceled. And so that's a difficult hit to take when you're accustomed to, you know, creating between 6 and 10 times a year live. Those are nice paid gigs that, you know, help bring a little income in. And but I think with Gary mentioning that as well, not having the travel, not having the live commissions happening with the events, it gave me some more time to be in the studio to kind of dig in and ponder and spend that time just creating for the purpose of healing. And so during this COVID kind of lockdown time, for some artists, I think it's been a good thing to have that time to reflect and not constantly being on the hustle of how do I need to get out there and make the next art show? How do I get to another gallery? How do I, you know, it's a time of reflection. And I think for us, it's been a blessing to have that time, even though that loss of income has been challenged. Other opportunities have presented themselves. And I think there is a hunger out there for patrons and for collectors and even for those who are working extra hard on getting themselves out through social media. You really can't get around and get to know every artist, but when every artist, whether it's a performing artist like Vedra and they're doing ensembles and they're doing it online and doing it through Zoom and composing works, or you meet a gallery owner and they're walking you through on a virtual tour of the gallery and works that they're showing virtually, or you get to meet, I'm not I haven't done it myself to get online and to bring your online community into the studio. I do it through stills and through photography, but a lot of folks are doing it through the video chats and bringing their video straight to the consumer direct through social media and through their own websites. And so I think the pandemic has offered an opportunity, or at least put a challenge out there for visual and performing artists, as well as gallery owners and organizations, to invite a broader community into their experience, into their studios, into their galleries through social media that wouldn't have otherwise and may not have been recognized or discovered because they've been in the constant of, this is how I do it, this is how I've always done it. Now I think with the challenges, we're rediscovering what it is to be creative and how to retool for the day that we're in.
Yeah, I've noticed as a filmmaker that last year we didn't have any documentaries. It's the first year since we started doing documentaries we didn't do one. In fact, the last one we did was Father Doyle, which was a very successful documentary. We just now booked 3 documentaries for the coming year. So people are, I think, more optimistic. I think they're willing to come back out. And we do our work safely. We did some projects for Atlanticare, for example. You know, we were masked, we kept a distance. You know, we didn't do anything that would have compromised the situation at all. But there is a different attitude right now. And I do think there will be some good long-term effects coming from this. And especially in South Jersey. I think South Jersey's starting to come into its own in a lot of ways. A lot of the communities in South Jersey are are growing into their own skin, so to speak. And it's people like you, the group that we have here that's helping that happen. So Vedra, as far as with your job, do you work with a lot of artists?
Actually, I do, and this is definitely specific to my role at Cooper's Ferry. Like I said, we do a wide variety of community development projects, but mine are specifically about arts and culture and vibrancy. So yeah, it's I work with a wide variety, and of course have over my lifetime, having been a dancer and then musical theater and then in circus and other things. But we love to program our park spaces. That's part of what we do. So I've met in a lot of bands, a lot of ensemble groups, a lot of singer-songwriters, a lot of theater groups that want to perform outside. And I've met a ton of visual artists, which has been a lot of fun, a lot of muralists and a couple of sculptors. And I've been saying this a lot over the past couple of weeks. I've been meeting so many more through this new project. And each time I've just been like, I'm just very happy to know you. I'm happy to know you. I'm happy to know that you are here. I'm happy to know that you are in this community, and to work together to find ways that our local artists can continue to contribute to the community and to its growth.
And do you collaborate, for example, Kahra, do you collaborate with Vedra on any projects, or is there a connection there?
So actually, we're collaborating to facilitate some projects this summer with Cooper's Ferry Partnership, and to connect some of our artists with some of the programs that Vedra is running. Perkins has actually collaborated with Vedra a number of times over the last few years as a performer, but also, through networking together, we've been able to, introduce one another. I think, the center and Cooper's Ferry Partnership have had the opportunity to kind of share knowledge and share ideas and share resources in the terms of sharing the artists, to let them know also that there are other institutions out there that hire artists, that are looking for artists, that want to employ artists, which I think is a huge responsibility that we both share. Really trying to not only, we've talked a lot about creating the art and making art accessible to patrons or to people who enjoy it, but also to the artists themselves. I think, and we have a lot of those of us that, and kind of all of us, because it seems like we're all connected in that way too, that we bear that responsibility to share opportunities with each other and with other artists.
Yes, this has definitely been a highlight of my work as well. I agree, like making sure that artists in Camden understand that there are paid opportunities for them. There it is, and I've been making this point again to our apprentices. Like our apprentices for a new view are being paid through the generous support of the Subaru and their foundation and their corporate giving. But
that's great.
That was a tenet of the program. Like we want, all the artists were like, do you guys have volunteers? You guys have volunteers? Yes, we have volunteers. We do. But we also have local artists who are professional in their own right, and who need to earn a paycheck and need to know and need to think of this community, Camden County, South Jersey, right, as a place where we can create art as professionals. And yes, Kahra and everybody on this, thank you for making South Jersey a place where we can do that. And that was what, I won't talk forever, but when I moved home after performing in circus, that was one of my first questions. Because again, growing up in Camden, there was not a lot of this. And my first question was, well, where do I go to sing? And people were really quick to kind of be like, oh, well, there's a community center or like a this or that. And they all sounded very free. And I made it very clear. I was like, no, I'm looking for a place that wants to hire a singer, hire a band. And it took a little bit of digging, but again, I think that the conversation that we're having tonight and the group of people on this call are very much representative of the fact that South Jersey is this place and can be more of this place. And we're all working for it to be that place where professional artists are celebrated and paid for their talents.
I think, Dorrie, you've also made sure that with your organization that your people get paid. That was important to you. So how do you manage to fund? I know you have people like Stockton University that helps you, but where does your support come from, Dorrie?
Well, we operate as a social enterprise, so we are funded largely by the goods that we sell. So what we make, we sell, and that helps fund us. Other than that, there are small grants here and there. Essentially, I mean, we find, like I said, small grants here and there, but it's a challenge. We always try and find more jobs that are paid. Yes, it's very important. I mean, we are there to help women in need, and so those are our artists, our artisans in the studio. So it's important that we pay them, and that's the mission. So we do the best we can, to keep everybody paid.
You know what? The work's beautiful. In fact, I think Gary should take a look at it sometime. Seriously, Gary, it is really beautiful work. It's art.
That's
So
good.
you might be interested in looking at some of the stuff that they're doing at some point.
It has meaning. That's important.
That is. That's what art is.
Definitely has meaning.
Mhm.
So we're getting close to wrapping this up. I don't want to keep you guys too long on this. It's been a great discussion so far. But are there any topics that any of you would like to bring up? Is there any thoughts you have about this, the general feeling about the arts in South Jersey and where it's going and what we can do as a team, as a group, as a community? And I think that's part of what's important too, is creating a community with the arts in South Jersey. I think it's happening. I really do. And there is so much talent here. I mean, every day, every time I think I know all the artists or I know everybody's doing something, somebody comes by and shows me something. I go, wow, where were you? Where were you? How did I just find you? So I think there's a lot of undiscovered talent still out there. So
Well, I think to your point, we've talked a lot about, networking and sharing ideas. And I think really, I've been in the nonprofit world for a long time. And there was this very antiquated notion a long time ago that if we all just held on to our resources and tried to do the best that we could do all by ourselves, that we would win. And that we would, and that was the goal. We would be successful and we would win. And now I think we find more and more that this idea of collaboration and networking and feeding each other, through our collaborations and through our networking and through our discussions is really how we all are going to win. And, when you talk about South Jersey, I think, building that critical mass, sharing information about artists, about opportunities, about other organizations, about all of these events and places that people can experience the arts. That's the success, because it ultimately creates that larger community of support and that larger, the more people you tell, like that old Krell commercial from the 70s, like you tell two people, then they tell two people. Yep. And so you have this kind of exponential growth of the network, which is really just so important.
Gary, have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if looking at history, I'm very, very optimistic for the arts. Coming out of the pandemic, coming out of 1918, we had the Roaring 20s. It's not quite the same to compare the Dark Ages. What came after the Dark Ages was the best, the most incredible art history event in the world. So this little mini Dark Age that we just had, I think it's just going to be a very positive atmosphere for the arts. I do. I just think people are going to be realizing what's important and how to access it, and it's let's get to the end. But I'm very optimistic.
Let me just ask you, as far as the future for for-profit galleries, it's been tough. A lot of for-profits in the Philadelphia area, and haven't been able to make it. What do you see as the future for the for-profit gallery?
Well, I'm just fortunate that I'm surrounded by wealth. And I can't, that's all I can say. I just heard today 86 new homes being built in Stone Harbor. I'm fortunate. I'm called Beacon Art. I came down from Beacon, New York. We had the plethora of fabulous artists. No nonprofit made it in Beacon. I happened to have a place in South Jersey that was surrounded by wealth, and I brought those artists to South Jersey, and I sold them. So it's money for a profit gallery is very, very important. Or having the clients who have access to, they can drop $6,000, and I talk to Nancy, my wife, all the time. Like, wow, wouldn't that be nice to have $6,000 to just say, let's get that. Okay, we'll take that home. Doesn't happen to me, but those are my clients.
Well, why do you think you were surrounded by two other galleries that didn't make it? Why do you think your gallery is different?
Well, I started at the beginning of the economic downturn, so I had no place to go but up. I started in 2009, so you start here, and then the trajectory has been up. I think you have to keep it fresh. You have to do stage set all the time. It can't be the same place when you walk in twice. It's a lot of work. And I know, there was one, I won't mention names, but you walked in year after year, over there was this guy, over there was this guy. It's got to be an adventure when people walk into the place that said, oh, wow, that's new. Oh, that's neat. Oh, what are you doing? So, so wealth is important. Education is important. It's sad in the scene in America of people that don't have any relationship to art. None, zero. They'll go to Home Goods and get their wall piece in their $10 million house. Does that make sense? But that's the reality of where we are culturally.
And Kahra, I think there's one thing with the Perkins running two very different facilities with Morristown and Collingswood. I think it gives you the opportunity to explore a lot of different types of art and keep it fresh. And I think you're doing a great job of doing that. I always keep telling people, you got to go to Collingswood. A lot of people from this area of South Jersey have never been there.
Yeah, I think and we appreciate that very much. I mean, we are very fortunate that we have some really nice municipal partnerships, and where we're located in both communities gives us the opportunity to explore the arts in different ways. Our building in Collingswood is a little more, a little more industrial, a little more urban setting kind of, and the location in Morristown is an historic Tudor manor. So, it gives us the opportunity to kind of play with the art in different ways. We have the opportunity to display in different ways, provide different mediums in different ways, provide different opportunities in different ways, and just use those two locations also as a launch pad, really, for the greater region. So that some of the work that we're able to do, Gary, you talked about education. One of the things that Perkins does is we employ teaching artists to serve underserved schools to really expose the student body to what working art is and how to participate in art and what comes from that discovery. So that's a huge part of what we do outside of our buildings. And it's just so important. I agree.
I think it's super important. And I would just echo, from all of the featured panelists that, we're all in this together. And I think it's so important that we throw our support towards each other. And for me, it's been just a wonderful month, being a featured artist, with Strobe, and then also having being a featured artist with the Beacon Gallery. So we did an opening last Sunday that was just fantastic. Gary did a beautiful job putting it together, and it was really a delight to see people come together in person, in mask inside, and we had a beautiful reception area outside. And so for me, I love to connect with people. It's great to be in the studio and work and have that set aside time and contend for the work so that it's not only beautiful, but it's authentic and it's an expression coming uniquely from the artist. And I think people really, really want to connect on those levels, those real deep human levels that are, it's like when Vedra is performing, it's not a performance, it's her heart, it's her nature. She just shines well, not just on stage, but everywhere she goes, she just shines. All of you who have met her, it's Vedra. She walks into a room, it just lightens up. Give her a microphone and then it's just amplified. So you get that, which is beautiful. But to have the exhibit at the Beacon Art Gallery in Stone Harbor, it was a wonderful show, and I'm proud of the artwork, and I think it's beautiful works that are for a time such as this. But the part that really touched me deeply was to see the number of people who came out, who were not just there to view the new artwork. I haven't exhibited in quite some time, and I think there's a beautiful desire to see something new, but I think there's even a deeper desire to connect on a very human level and to put your arms around people you haven't seen face to face for a long, long time. It brought me to tears. It really did. And so I think for the arts and for galleries and for events and for performance and for nonprofits, I think people are so desiring to have that heart connection with other people who have the similar passion and love that connectivity through the arts. It's just paramount. It is absolutely.
This might be a good time to wrap things up. As the dog barks and lets us know that it's time to end this discussion. I just want to thank all the panelists tonight. I really enjoyed talking with you and hearing your opinions. And I will spend the next couple of days putting this together so that we can show it on Monday night. So thank you again for being here. I hope you get to join us at our 10th anniversary in Millville in September. We're looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll get to see all of you there. So this has been ArtC's third annual panel discussion. I'm Bill Horin. I'm the moderator. My panelists have been Dorrie Papademetriou, Vedra Chandler, Kahra Buss, Gary Jacketti, and William Butler. Thank you very much and good night.